Hi, I'm Frank.
And I'm Erica.
And we're with Cash for Collectibles. This week we're going to talk about comic books more. Because we had someone come in this week with a really good comic book collection that we'll be auctioning off this week. And we wanted to talk about why it's a good collection and talk about some of the high points of this collection. Some 1960s, early 1960s Daredevil. These are very nice comic books. I like this one. So there's some real nice Daredevil series ones. Where we got Daredevil 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 18, and a bunch more. So these are real nice, but they're a little older. In the 60s, I'll let you hold those.
That's all right.
In the 60s, they didn't make the paper real well. It was made with newsprint paper. The covers were a lower quality. So the reason they're valuable these days is because not only does it remind us of our youth, remind kids of their youth, but
it's also
they're valuable because a lot of them didn't last.
Right, it's hard to find them in really good condition.
Most of them got torn up, shredded.
Right, kids read them. I mean, that's what they were meant for. And so, kids don't really take care of their things, and also just the nature of the paper doesn't stand the test of time.
Try to have a paper from the early 60s, a newspaper, last this long in good condition is almost impossible. So, the quality of these are really nice. They do have issues. Like, for example, let's talk about the first one here. The way you grade, the grading of comic books is so brutal. When the person brought these comic books in and he described them as mint, I wouldn't describe them as mint.
No.
And they look beautiful. They're pretty. They look really nice. To the unexperienced comic book collector, you would think these are perfect condition because they're gorgeous. But when you send in enough comic books to get professionally graded and they tear it apart and pick at it, you start to realize that there's a big difference between perfect and not perfect. Right. So when they grade these, they're gonna knock that little dent there. They're gonna knock this little fold, which you can probably barely see.
There's minor feathering on the edges or where the color has faded somewhat, and that'll bring it down.
And there's a minor ding up here on the corner. The pages are all there. The color is all there. It's not ripped. It's not torn. It's cut nice. Everything is beautiful about it. But those little tiny things would knock it down, and if it was graded, it would probably come back at around a 6.
Yeah.
More comic books that came in this week. This is a really nice one. I like this one. This is the first appearance of the X-Men. I'll let you hold that. I don't look goofy. That's the first appearance of the X-Men. That's a really nice comic book. In perfect mint condition, that comic book could range anywhere from $40,000 to $100,000, depending on if it's graded and the high level of the grading. People who have big money and who are big investors in comic books want them graded with the highest absolute number possible.
Right.
The closer you get to a 10, the more exponentially the comic books are worth. It's almost impossible to get a 10, especially on an old comic book. But if this would have graded at about a 9.8, which is enormous, that would probably be around $100,000, $150,000, maybe more. Even at a 9, which would be 9 is considered mint. If it was graded at a 9, it'd still be about a $40,000 comic book. This one is not mint.
Not right.
But damn, try to find an X-Men #1 for your collection anywhere. It's tough.
Yeah.
And try to get it for under $1,000 is almost impossible. Because even in crappy condition, it's worth about $4,000 or $5,000. This one, because of the chip right there, the slight rolling and feathering of the comic book there, I hope that shows up. This corner looks nice. This corner's got a little ding, a chip. But because of a little ruffling here, I would say that would probably grade it around 4, 4.5. And even at that level, this is probably around, would you say, a $5,000, $6,000 comic book?
That would be nice.
An awesome comic book. This is a really nice comic book for someone to have. X-Men, one of the most popular series of all time, and to get a #1 is awesome.
It's hard to come by.
Right. And #2 is also hard to come by. Even better, too, is the #4. You would think #1 would be the most valuable, and #2 would be the next most valuable, #3. But there are sometimes, a lot of times with comic books, there's a more standout issue. And in this case, number 4 is worth more than number 2 and number 3.
And why is that?
2 reasons. And this is a beautiful one, too.
It's really nice.
2 reasons. Back in the 60s, when they made comic books, they would, the comic book companies back then weren't rich. They just, they were like starting up newspaper companies. They had to print what they could sell. So they would make a lot of the first one, a lot of the second one, a lot of the third one, and by the 4th one, they weren't sure if the series was going to take off or be popular, so they would make a very low run of the 4th one. So the 4th one was usually a low run because it took about 4 months for them to figure out if the series was popular and if the stores were selling them. So the 4th one a lot of times was a very low run. So this is a very a low run comic book. The second reason is that's the first appearance of Magneto. So that's another reason. That's it's their most arch villain. It's their most
nemesis.
Nemesis. Their number one nemesis. So it's the first appearance of him, and it's a low run comic book, and that one is in very pretty condition. This one too. This is number 2. Wow.
Yeah, it's nice.
See this one. Oh. I'm sorry, but that one too is pretty nice. But on this one, number 2, you would think, looking at that one, that. And if you want to see cleaner pictures of this, go to our website. You can see cleaner pictures. But you would think with this one, it would come back with a grade of a 9 or a 9.5. To an unexperienced grader, because you're looking at it, you're like the corners are clean. There's no breaks in the color. It's vivid. It's beautiful, pretty. But, and this isn't even going to show up on camera. There is the slightest discoloration in this corner. There is a minor fold in here, like if the comic book kind of dented for a second. And the tiniest millimeter of a dent around this corner right here, which you probably can't even see. But anyways, this would probably, what would you say, grade at? An 8. Yeah, probably an 8. This is a number 12, another nice comic book. Another nice one. I think that's the first appearance of the Juggernaut, if I'm not mistaken.
It just might be.
And this another one is nice. This is, what is that number? These are all cool as heck. So there's another bunch of early X-Men right here. So these 2 are nice comic books as well. We'll just skip here. This one here is also a very extremely desirable comic book. It is the Giant Size X-Men Annual number 1. That's a very good one. Want to do it?
Yeah.
That is a very good comic book. Very desirable. In mint condition, in perfect mint condition, that could be $2,500 to $5,000, depending on how high the grade is mint. So this is a very desirable comic book as well. One of the most desirable comic books in the X-Men series. This one just so happens to be absolutely gorgeous. It's a thick spine. It's very squared off. Most of the times it's on these thick spines, you see them crushed and smashed.
Or rounded.
Rounded. But this one is squared off. It's very pretty, very nice. It almost looks like there's absolutely no issues, except for one issue. And this one where we had the discussion, the argument, there is a little black staining here, but it is black from the printing press when it was made. So it's a manufacturer's defect. So if you can see that up there, it's slight. It's on all the pages. It's very slight, but it's not like a modern stain or spill like someone dumped it on there.
Right.
It was printed like that. So we're actually not sure how the grading company would take that. But besides that, this is a very clean, very pretty comic book. Very nice and highly desirable. This is an awesome collection. When these kind of comic books come in, this is when we pay a lot of money for. This is the kind of stuff we're looking for because we make a lot more money on these than we do on the more modern junk comic books that we talked about in other videos. So we love these kind of comic books, and we pay thousands of dollars for these comic books. So thank you for listening. Have fun with the auction. You'll check on the website below here to view the auction and our other auctions as well.
Right.
Have fun budding. If you have any questions, our phone number will be on our website as well. You can call and ask us any questions as well too. And remember to always subscribe and like our videos.
Bye.
Bye.